Nero. The name itself conjures images of madness and tyranny. We all know the story, the emperor who fiddled while Rome burned, a simple, powerful image of a monster. But what if I told you that story is likely a lie? And what if I told you the truth is far, far worse? History books, for the sake of simplicity, often reduce Nero to a caricature. But the real Nero was not a one-dimensional villain. He was a complex, terrifying figure whose true evil lies not in the myths, but in the documented, cold, hard facts that are often too disturbing for the classroom. This is not a story about an emperor who played a fiddle. This is the story of a man who murdered his mother with a collapsible boat, who kicked his pregnant wife to death, who castrated a boy to marry him as a bride, and who invented a new form of entertainment, human torches. Tonight, we go beyond the cliches. We will open the case files of the Roman Empire and expose the evil things Nero did that your history books won't tell you. We will reconstruct his most shocking crimes, not as myths, but as they were documented by the historians who lived through his terror. We will build a psychological profile of a man who believed he was an artist, but whose only true art was cruelty. Are you ready to meet the real Nero? Then stay with us, but be warned, the truth is more monstrous than any myth. Before we begin, a question for you. What is the one thing you think you know about Emperor Nero? Write it in the comments below. Let's see how many of us have been taught the same story before we shatter it. Nero's reign of terror began, as it so often does, at home. His first victim was not a political rival, but the boy who should have been emperor in his place, his 14-year-old stepbrother, Britannicus. History books might say Britannicus died suddenly. The truth is a cold-blooded assassination. At a dinner party in AD 55, Nero, not yet 18 himself, watched as his stepbrother was served poisoned wine. But this was no simple poisoning. To bypass the food tasters, the poison wasn't in the wine itself. It was in the cold water used to cool it. As Britannicus collapsed, gasping for air, Nero calmly told the horrified guests that it was merely an epileptic seizure. The boy's body was cremated that very night, in the middle of a rainstorm, his murder washed away by the downpour. But killing his brother was just a rehearsal. His true masterpiece of domestic horror was reserved for the woman who gave him the throne, his own mother, Agrippina. By AD 59, Agrippina had become a nuisance. She still tried to control her son, the emperor. Nero decided she had to die, but he couldn't just execute her. She was too popular. He needed it to look like an accident, and the plan he devised is one of the most bizarre and inept assassination plots in history. He commissioned a special collapsible boat. The plan was to invite his mother for a pleasant cruise, and then, at a signal, the lead-weighted ceiling would collapse, crushing her, and the boat would fall apart, sinking her to the bottom of the sea. It was theatrical, it was Neronian, and it was a complete failure. The ceiling collapsed, but Agrippina's couch was too strong. The boat fell apart, but she turned out to be a strong swimmer and made it to shore. When news reached Nero that his mother had survived, he panicked. The pretense of an accident was over. He sent a hit squad to her villa. When the assassins surrounded her, Agrippina, in a final act of defiance, reportedly pointed to her womb and said, "Strike here, for this bore Nero." They did. Nero later visited her corpse, commenting on the quality of her body parts as if she were a piece of livestock. He had murdered his mother and then forced the Senate to congratulate him for surviving her fictitious plot against him. We are just getting started. Nero's family was only the beginning. To follow us deeper into the abyss, subscribe to Dark Chronicles and ring the bell of forbidden knowledge. You won't want to miss what comes next. With his mother gone, Nero's private life descended into a new circle of hell. He was bored of his first wife Octavia, the daughter of the previous emperor, Claudius. He wanted to marry his pregnant mistress, the ambitious Poppaea Sabina. So, in AD 62, he divorced Octavia on a fabricated charge of adultery and exiled her. But the people of Rome loved Octavia. They protested in the streets. Nero, fearing a riot, decided to solve the problem permanently. He had Octavia executed. She was tied down, and her veins were opened in a hot steam bath. Her severed head was then delivered to Poppaea, allegedly as a wedding gift, but Poppaea's triumph was short-lived. 3 years later, in AD 65, she was pregnant again. One evening, Nero returned late from the chariot races. Poppaea nagged him. In a fit of rage, Nero, the master of the Roman world, kicked his pregnant wife in the stomach. She died from her injuries. What happened next is perhaps the most twisted love story in Roman history. Overcome with a bizarre form of grief, Nero became obsessed with finding a replacement for Poppaea. He found a young boy, a freedman named Sporus, who bore a striking resemblance to his dead wife. And here is a detail your history books definitely skipped. Nero had Sporus publicly and surgically castrated. He then held a formal wedding ceremony, with Sporus dressed as a bride, complete with a dowry and a veil. He forced Sporus to wear women's clothes, to act as his empress, and to accompany him to all public events. He had lost a wife, so he simply made a new one, carving a human being into the shape of his grief and desire. This is a story of extreme domestic violence and psychological horror. What does this tell us about the nature of absolute power? Does power corrupt, or does it simply reveal what was already there? Share your thoughts in the comments. In AD 64, the Great Fire of Rome devastated the city. The myth says Nero fiddled while it burned. The truth is, he was 30 miles away when it started. He rushed back, organized relief efforts, and opened his palaces to the homeless. For a moment, he acted like an emperor. But then, the artist inside him took over. He used the vast cleared land to begin construction of his dream project, the Domus Aurea, the Golden House. A palace so vast, it was said the whole of Rome had become one man's house. Rumors began to fly. Had Nero started the fire himself to clear the way for his masterpiece? He needed a scapegoat. And he found one in a small, misunderstood religious sect that was gaining traction in the city's slums: the Christians. What Nero did to the Christians was not just persecution. It was a new form of performance art. It was cruelty as a spectacle. History books mention the persecution, but they rarely describe the methods. According to the historian Tacitus, some Christians were sewn into the skins of wild animals and torn to pieces by dogs in the arena. Others were crucified, but Nero's signature invention was the human torch. Christians were arrested, taken to his private gardens, coated in pitch and wax and tied to stakes. At night, during his lavish parties, they were set on fire. Their burning bodies served as lanterns to illuminate the festivities, while Nero, the artist, drove his chariot among them, admiring his work. Even Romans who despised the Christians were horrified. Tacitus wrote that it was clear they were being killed, not for the public good, but to glut one man's cruelty. For this, Nero would be forever known in Christian tradition as the Antichrist. The number of the beast, 666, is believed by many scholars to be a numerical code for his name, Nero Caesar. These are the stories that are hard to tell and hard to hear, but they must be told. If you believe in our mission to uncover the dark truths of history, please consider supporting us and subscribe to our channel. The link is in the description. If you know someone who thinks history is boring, share this video with them. This is the history they were never taught in school. Nero's reign of terror could not last. His extravagance bankrupted the state. His cruelty alienated the army and the Senate. In AD 68, the legions in Gaul and Spain revolted. The Senate declared him a public enemy. The Praetorian Guard abandoned him. He fled the city, a fugitive in his own empire. Hiding in a villa, he ordered his few remaining slaves to dig a grave for him. But even then, the man who had murdered so many could not bring himself to take his own life. He hesitated, weeping, until he heard the sound of approaching horsemen. With the help of his private secretary, he finally plunged a dagger into his own throat. His final words were not those of a tyrant, but of a failed artist. "Qualis artifex pareo," he whispered. "What an artist dies in me." So, was Nero simply a monster? The answer is more complex. He was a product of a system that gave one man absolute power. He was a man-child, elevated to the status of a god, who never learned the difference between performance and reality. between art and atrocity. The history books give us the myth of the fiddler, a simple story of madness. The truth, found in the details they leave out, is a far more chilling tale of a man who turned the entire Roman Empire into his personal stage and its people into props for his art of cruelty. The real evil of Nero is not that he fiddled while Rome burned, it's that he lit the fires himself and called it art. If this journey into the dark heart of Rome has opened your eyes, subscribe to Dark Chronicles. There are so many more secrets buried in the past, waiting to be unearthed. Now that you've met the real Nero, are you ready to face the most shocking punishments of the ancient world? Click here to watch our next investigation into the dark side of justice. Was Nero a misunderstood artist or a pure psychopath? We want to hear your verdict. Let us know in the description.